So just remembering some of those stories and those human elements, those connections that we have, remembering the legacies of the railroad. So as the Jupiter is pulled back into Promontory Station, we await our trip back in time to May 10, 1869, and dive into the history, dive into the story. I just want to say thank you all for coming out to Golden Spike today. We appreciate you being out here to celebrate with us. Hope you enjoy the rest of the program this afternoon. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're actually going to bring you back a few more years to the year 1862. At this time, I would like to introduce, where did he go? Leave it to a politician to not be where he's supposed to be when we're looking for him. We're going to go back to the year 1862 because the story really started with the signing of the Pacific Railway Act of 1862. Ladies and gentlemen, President Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah. 1862. And this nation stands at its darkest hour, torn apart by war, divided against itself. Yet even now, I must look beyond the smoke of these battlefields to a brighter horizon that others cannot yet see. Union requires more than a military victory. It requires a physical connection. It must be bound, not by words alone, but by something that lasts and endures. Iron stretching from ocean to ocean, creating a pathway for people, commerce, and American hope across this vast land. If we are to heal, if we are to become whole again, then we must act with purpose and resolve. And so I signed this bold bill, the Pacific Railway Act of 1862, not just for progress, but for unity, believing that one day, this nation will rise above its divisions, with malice towards none, with charity for all, to bind up this nation's wounds.
President.
Thank you.
Well, now we'll come forward approximately 7 years, 6.5 actually, as you'll hear later on, to this date, which is... Okay, let's try that again. This date, which is... 1869. Thank you so much. This is a time travel machine. When you come through those doors, you are always here on May 10th, 1869. I want to tell you a little bit of background about the two locomotives that star here at the Golden Spike National Historic Park. First of all, if you look at the original Golden Spike, which is in the Stanford University Museum in Palo Alto, California, or one of our replicas that we have here, does anybody know what date is inscribed on that spike for the ceremony? May 8th. Hey, somebody's observant. That's right. Folks, we're 2 days late. This was supposed to happen on May 8th of 1869. But there was a blessing that came with being late, because on May 8th, it was recorded there were torrential rains out here. It would have been a sloppy ceremony had they done it as scheduled. It was delayed for two reasons. One, the Central Pacific was delayed and the Union Pacific was delayed. As a matter of fact, the two locomotives that star here, that have become legendary in history, were not supposed to be here. Do we have any substitute teachers out there? Oh, there's one back there. You know what it feels like to be a substitute, right? Yeah. These locomotives are both substitutes. The locomotive that originally was bringing Governor Stanford's train and his dignitaries from the Central Pacific, from Sacramento, while coming down the Truckee River Canyon, coming off Donner Summit, ran into an unfortunate incident of timber being placed across the tracks by a construction crew who didn't know they were coming. That locomotive was the Antelope, and the Antelope struck those ties and, of course, was no longer fit for a ceremony such as this. So they limped Governor's train down into the next town of Reno or Sparks, Nevada, where the next substitute locomotive was made available, CP's number 60, the Jupiter. Fortunately, she is also an ornately appointed locomotive made for passenger service. Now, the Union Pacific was similarly delayed, but it was a more tragic story. It was really frustrating. Union Pacific's locomotive has been lost to history. We don't know which one she was bringing her dignitaries out, came to a small town in Wyoming where a bunch of rail construction workers had not yet been paid. Yeah, you can see what's coming here, I can tell. They chained the locomotive and the train to the tracks, demanding their pay before they could go any further, because they knew the boss was on board. Well, he did finally wire back, telegraph, and get funds transferred out and got them paid. They released the train. But that wasn't the end of the adventure for that train. Remember those torrential rains I was talking to you about here on May 8th? And those of you who are familiar with the area know where the Weber River is and the Weber River Canyon. You drive through it on I-84. That's where today's Union Pacific still goes through that area, by the way. Well, the Weber River was swollen. The engineer of that dignitary train rolled up to that bridge and looked down and said, I am not taking this heavy locomotive across that bridge. So they uncoupled the locomotive, set it aside, shoved the empty passenger cars across one by one. And then the dignitaries crossed the bridge on foot, got back on their train. Now they had to wait for another locomotive, which was dispatched from Ogden, Utah. It was an ordinary, plain-looking freight locomotive, the 119. So that is how, today in history, the legendary locomotives Jupiter and 119, where did she go? The Union Pacific is still late. Folks, I need your help. You're part of the cast. You have a line. You have to memorize it. I'll teach it to you now. You ready? It is hip, hip, hooray. You think we can do that? Let's give it a try. See if we get the Union Pacific in here. Hip, hip. Hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! I don't think they heard us. You're going to put more energy into doing that. So everybody that can stand, please stand up. You got to stand up. Make your voices really clear. Now, say it with gusto like you mean it. Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hooray! Hip, hooray! Hey, we made they heard us. Here they come. Stand up, give them a big wave. They finally made it after 2 days. Let's give the Union Pacific a big welcome. Welcome to Promontory, Union Pacific. Yeah, about time you got here, guys. The date is May 10th, 1869. The place, Utah Territory. Promontory Summit, an unlikely place for the culmination of an event that would mark the ending of the Old West and the beginning of the New. But they have come. The wealthy and the poor, the famous and the unknown. The Chinese from the West and the Irish from the East, mingling with local residents in a strange communion. The gathering is both festive and anxious, awaiting that moment of miracle when a common railroad spike, driven into an ordinary railroad tie, would link a continent. A gentle breeze is blowing under an almost cloudless sky. The thermometer on the side of the Central Pacific telegraph car reads 69 degrees. Suddenly, above the voices could be heard the soft hissing of the steam locomotives, which would herald the beginning of a new era. Suddenly, the attention of the crowd is drawn to two men, J.H. Strobridge, construction superintendent of the Central Pacific, and his counterpart from the Union Pacific, S.B. Reed, as they slid into place a tie made of highly polished laurel wood. And then, Edgar Mills, a wealthy banker and friend of the Central Pacific Railroad officials, steps forward and signals for silence. And so, a nation, as well as the spectators gathered here, await the moment of miracles when a common railroad spike will link a nation. On this 10th day of May, 1869, and you are here.
From Promontory to the country, Politis, we're about to begin. Do not break the circuit. Keep quiet. When the last spike is driven, the word done will be sent.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the officials of both railroads, the Union Pacific and the Central Pacific, I bid you welcome. We are met today to commemorate the completion of a project which is a remarkable example of the vision, the determination, and the labor of thousands of men in a union, which this day shall be consummated forever. We are assembled here to link the ends of the earth to join the raw riches of the American West with the finished products of the Industrial Age. We also met this day with mixed emotions, with joy that in a combined effort and a common cause, the brains, the sweat, and the muscle of thousands of men have joined together under the guidance of Almighty God. But it is with profound sorrow that we remember and pay homage to the hundreds of men who gave their lives that we might stand here at this moment and share one with another this sacred occasion. Among those whose presence we are honored to acknowledge at this time include a number of railroad officials from both lines, in addition to those taking part in the ceremony. We are pleased to have reporters from some of America's great newspapers. From the territory of Utah, among other dignitaries present, is Bishop John Sharp, the railroad bishop representing Governor Brigham Young. We also have Mayor Lauren Farr of Ogden. The beautifully uniformed band with its new instrument is from the Mormon Church headquarters in Salt Lake City. Of utmost importance is a telegraph operator who will keep the whole United States informed of these proceedings as they transpire. He is Mr. W.N. Schilling, Western Union operator from the Ogden, Utah office. We take pride in the presence of the 21st Infantry Band and some of the men of the regiment. They are under the command of Major Milton Cogswell and Lieutenant J.C. Currier. And now, to unite us in thanks to our Creator, may I introduce a man who has traveled many weary miles to be with us today. He is the Reverend John Todd of Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Reverend Todd.
Proclamatory to the country. Bulletin. Almost ready. Hats are off. The prayer is being offered.
Our Father in God, and our Father's God, God of creation and God of providence, thou hast created the heavens and the earth, the valleys and the hills. Thou art also the God of all mercies and blessings. We rejoice that thou hast created the human mind with its capacity of expansion and its burden of success. Now we have assembled here upon the height of this continent from various sections of our country to do homage to thy wonderful name, to that thou hast brought this mighty enterprise, mighty the commerce of the east and the gold of the west, to so glorious a completion. We consecrate this highway for the good of thy people. O God, we implore thy blessings upon it, and upon thy people everywhere, that peace may flow unto them as a gentle stream, and that this mighty enterprise may be unto us as the Atlantic of thy strength and the Pacific of thy love. Through Jesus the Redeemer. Amen.
Proclamatory to the country. Bulletin. We have got done praying. The last spike is about to be presented.
Thank you, Reverend Todd. And now I should like to introduce three of the men who will drive some of the last necessary spikes. They are W.H. Nottingham, president of the Union Pacific Railroad and Lakeshore Railroad, and Mr. J.W. Haynes, a United States Commissioner, and another Commissioner, Mr. H.W. Nottingham. Gentlemen, let's drive these spikes. Well done. Well done, gentlemen. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce a fellow resident of Sacramento, Dr. H.W. Harkness, who will present to Dr. Thomas C. Durant of the Union Pacific Railroad and Governor Leland Stanford of the Central Pacific Railroad two railroad spikes. Dr. Durant and Governor Stanford will then place these spikes into holes that have already been drilled in the laurelwood tie. But these are not ordinary spikes. Ladies and gentlemen, these are golden spikes made from pure California gold. Dr. Harkness.
Thank you. Gentlemen of the Pacific Railroad, and those of you who have met with us, the last spike needed to unite the Atlantic and the Pacific by a new line of trading commerce is about to be driven to its place. To perform this act, the East and the West have come together. Never since history has commenced her record of human events has man been called upon to meet the completion of a work so magnificent in contemplation, so marvelous in execution. California, within its borders and by its citizens, the Pacific Railroad was inaugurated, desires to express her appreciation for the vast importance to her and her sister states of the great enterprise which, by joint action, is about to be consummated. From her mines of gold, she has forged the spike. From her laurel woods, she has honed a tie. And from the hands of her citizens, she offers them to become a part of the great highway, which will unify her in greater fellowship to her sisters of the Atlantic. From her bosom was taken the first soil. Let this be the last tie, and these last spikes. And with them, the hopes and wishes of her people, that your enterprise may not stop short from its brightest promise. This spike was donated by Frank Marriott, publisher of the San Francisco Newsletter. Its inscription reads, "The San Francisco Newsletter offers its homage to the great work which has united the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans this month, May 1869. In conclusion, I should like to draw your attention to this spike, gift to David Hughes of San Francisco. On the head, it is inscribed, the last spike. The three sides, the names of railroad officials, and the fourth, this sentence. May God continue to unite this country as this railroad unites the two great oceans of the world. Dr. Grant? Ready to spike?
Beautiful. Beautiful spike.
Go Stafford?
Very much right.
The golden spike.
After you, Governor. Thank you, Dr. Harkness. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. F.A. Tridle, the United States Commissioner and candidate for governor of the great state of Nevada. He will present the spike of pure silver from the famed Comstock lode on behalf of the people of Nevada. Mr. Tridle.
From the iron to the east, the gold to the west, Nevada adds her Lincoln silver to span the continent and wed the ocean.
We are highly honored today with the presence of the Honorable Anson P.K. Safford, who is en route to Arizona as the newly appointed territorial governor. He was kind enough to delay his journey to his new headquarters in order to make a presentation on behalf of the Arizona Territory. Governor Safford.
Ribbed in iron, clad in silver, and crowned with gold, Arizona is proud to present her offering to this enterprise that has banded a continent together and has directed a pathway to commerce.
After you, Governor.
Silver Spikes, Nevada.
Well done. Well done. Thank you, Mr. Tridle and Governor Safford. And now, friends, it is not only my duty, but my honor and privilege to introduce a man of vision, a man of courage, a humanitarian, and one who is highly esteemed by those of us who call him our friend. He is a Californian whose farsightedness has contributed in large measure to the success of this great enterprise. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Central Pacific Railroad, Governor Leland Stanford.
Gentlemen, the Pacific Railroad accepts with pride and satisfaction these gold and silver tokens of your appreciation of our enterprise, the material interest of the entire country, east and west, north and south. These gifts shall find a fitting place in the superstructure of our road. And before driving the last spike of the Pacific Railroad, allow me to express the hope that the great importance which you are pleased to attach to our undertaking may be in all effects fully realized. These line of rails connecting Atlantic and Pacific, and affording to new commerce, shall prove, we trust, a speedy forward of increased facilities. The day is not far distant when 3 tracks will be found necessary to accommodate the commerce and travel that seeks transit across this continent. Freight will then move in one direction, on one track, at a rate of speed and to the demands of cheapness and time. Cars and engines will be light or heavy, depending upon the speed required and the weight to be transported. In conclusion, I will add, ultimately, we hope to do what is now impossible on long lines. That is to transport coarse, heavy, and cheap products for all distances at living rates to the trade. I thank you.
Thank you, Governor Stanford, for your astute and timely remarks. We regret that Dr. Durant is suffering from a severe headache and has temporarily retired to his quarters. In his absence, and in the absence of the President of the Union Pacific Railroad, Mr. Oliver Ames, we have asked General Grenville Dodge, Chief Engineer of the Union Pacific Railroad, to represent his railroad with a few remarks. General Dodge.
Gentlemen, the great senator from Missouri, Thomas Hart Benton, proposed that someday a giant statue of Columbus should be erected on the highest peak of the Rocky Mountains, pointing westward, denoting this as the great route across our continent. You have made that prophecy today a fact. This is the way to India!
Thank you, General Dodge. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment that you and the entire nation have been waiting, the driving of the last spike is at hand. At this point, we wish to commend both railroad companies and their workers for their hard work and efficiency in bringing this monumental undertaking to its successful fruition in a record 6.5 years instead of the 12 years allotted to the venture. The final presentation in the form of a silver-plated spike ball will be made by Mr. L.W. Cole, President of the Pacific Union Express Company, after which Governor Stanford and Dr. Durant, now that he is feeling better, will make a few ceremonial taps on the precious metal spikes. Mr. Cole.
Railroad officials, both railroads, honored guests, and friends, it is the officers and workers of the Pacific Union Express Company's privilege to add our congratulations upon the completion of this modern-day miracle. This silver-plated spike mall is symbolic of our good wishes. Governor.
Just a tap, all right?
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Good job. Beautiful. Well done. At this point, I should point out that the last spike is a regular iron railroad spike that can be driven with a maul. Both the spike and the maul have been wired to the transcontinental telegraph line so that people everywhere can hear the spike that blows as the spike is being driven. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment has arrived. Austin and New Orleans have wired that they are ready and waiting. Indeed, throughout the length and breadth of the country, people everywhere are waiting at every Western Union station. As Mr. Schilling gives a signal that the last spike is driven, a magnetic ball will fall in the dome of the national Capitol. In San Francisco, the fire alarm bell will ring. A volley of 200 rounds will be fired in salute at Fort Point. And in Philadelphia, the Liberty Bell will ring again. Gentlemen, are you ready?
From promontory to the country, bulletin. All ready now, 12:40 p.m. Dr. Durant has adjusted the spike. The spike will be driven. The signal will be 3 dots for the commencement of the blow.
All right, Governor, let's finish this railroad. I did this right. Why don't you keep people? I'm not sure I can do much better, but I'll give my best. Dr. Durant. Wow. Maybe just tap them. What? There it is. That's better. Trowbridge and Reed. We get you down the Trowbridge Railroad. You get out of the way. Oh.
Promontory to the country, bulletin. D. O. N. E. Done.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Transcontinental Railroad has been completed. Henceforth, there is but one Pacific Railroad of the United States of America.
From promontory to President Ulysses S. Grant, Washington, D.C. And to the Associated Press, both East and West, final bulletin. Promontory Summit, Utah, May 10th, 1869. Mr. President, the last rail has been laid, the last spike has been driven. The Pacific Railroad is completed to a junction 1,086 miles west of the Missouri River and 690 miles east of Sacramento City, California. Signed, Leland Stanford, President of the Central Pacific Railroad, and Dr. Thomas C. Durant, Sidney Dillon, and John Dahl of the Union Pacific Railroad.
Gentlemen, I propose 3 cheers for the Union Pacific Railroad. Hip hip! Hip hip! Hip hip! Hip hip! Well done, Governor. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's give 3 cheers for the Central Pacific. Hip hip! Hip hip! Hip hip! For the Central Pacific. Well done.
For the first time in history, the Union Pacific Railroad entered the tracks of the Central Pacific, and the Central Pacific Railroad rode over the tracks of the Union Pacific, signifying a truly united Pacific Railroad. At that moment, one era ended and another began. the Golden Spike became a symbol of hope for further challenges and prosperity yet to come. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here at the Golden Spike National Historical Park, where it is always May 10th, 1869. We now invite anyone in period 1800s dress or costume to join us for a recreation of the famous champagne photo. That is the iconic photograph, one of the most famous in the world, that symbolizes this event today. Anyone in period costume, please come up and join us. We'll have our engineers momentarily, they're already in place, hold their bottles in place. After this photograph, we will have a second photograph where anyone in the general public is welcome who has traveled through this time machine to join us for this photograph. Waiting for a few more in costume to join us here. Engineers, I think everybody's here. We do ask those who are standing in the middle to please sit down so our official photographer in the back can snap this shot. We have the official shot. If you want to get up real quick and snap one of your own before we invite the public up, you're welcome to do so at this time. Make it quick, please. It's hot out here. And the engineers are leaning out in great patience for us. Okay, we now invite anybody here who would like to be part of history to come join us to create this, in a recreation of this historic photograph. Become a part of history with us, please.
It's not a matter of dodging, it's a matter of who's slowing down. That's what I'm talking about. We're not talking about boilers, let's go. I get Paul in my age side. I want the boiler side. Totally fine. What are you doing?
A reminder for those of you who are in the middle, please sit down for minutes, so our official photographer can get all of our friends. Very good. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us out here. A little bit later this afternoon, we will have one final locomotive demonstration as the locomotives depart for the engine house. Feel free to grab a hot dog at our Golden Spike Association hot dog stand in the parking lot, take a look at our gift shop back here, or just wander the ground.
Sure.